going on, guys? How you doing today? I don't know if you've noticed anything different, but I did do a little redecorating. I painted all of my walls. I found this wallpaper just at my local Michael's. They had it laying around, and I thought it looked pretty cool. So I hope you guys like it. Maybe we'll do other stuff in the future. Today, I thought I would do something that I hope is interesting to all of you, which is something that I did on a Reddit post, what feels like a year ago now, which is what I call RLCS Roulette. So, if I remember correctly, I did this for the winter major, or maybe it was the fall major. And basically, the idea is that it's akin to Fantasy Rocket League. We're going to take every single player from every single team that participated in the Worlds event and shuffle them randomly and put them onto all brand new rosters of three people. And then we're just going to do the thought experiment of who's the best, which teams are exciting, and ultimately choose which team we think would win this completely hypothetical impossible version of Rocket League, just to upset as many people as possible. So the only real criteria that I have for this is that no team can have multiple players from the same team. So if we were to shuffle team one, and team one's first pick is Astral and their second pick is Nali, no, we'll just reshuffle it until they get somebody who is not Nali or Itachi. I understand that now all of the teams have totally changed as we've got into the off season, but we're rocking and rolling with what we had before. So that is the only rule. The only other one is snake draft style. So if you are the first team, it'll go through all of the other teams, and then the last team will get the second pick, and then it'll work all the way up to you again as team number one. So that's how we're going to shuffle it. That's all the criteria we need. Let's go ahead and get into this bad boy, why don't we? All right, here's our super fancy spreadsheet that we set up. I know it's state of the art, guys. You don't need to tell me. I'm a professional. What can I say? So formatting is pretty straightforward. Let's get to our wheel of names. Found this great design of what looks like sandy shores at nighttime. Beautiful, isn't it? Here's all the names. Don't worry about it too much. Let's go ahead and pop this guy full screen. Actually, you know what? We're going to leave it here because we're going to be doing a lot of back and forth between these two tabs. So let's keep it right here and see who we're getting first. As you can see here, here is all of our players, all listed just once. Is there anything that we really need to cover about these? I don't think so, outside of the fact that somewhere in here we are going to see Commutator instead of Abs Crazy. This was an executive decision that my team and I made to keep Commutator as opposed to Abs Crazy. Commutator was there, and I think he was an awesome story from Worlds. So I have opted to keep Commutator. Probably going to be a net negative for the team that drafts him if they have aspirations of winning. But what do I know? Let's go ahead and spin for team one, why don't we? The excitement is palpable. No way. Oh, I thought it was going to be Commutator first pick. SMW. All right. SMW comes off the board. Just for any of you critics out there in the change log. Oops, that's not what I meant to hit. Somewhere on here I can see all of my results. There they are. SMW. He's the only one off the board, so no cheating or any weird stuff. Let me move our camera back up here before we go anywhere. Team one, player one, SMW. Let's keep it rolling. All right. Already a very exciting team. Let's see if they'll be able to add talent around what could be the best player in the world, especially heading into next season. Big names coming off the board early. Now a world champion extra, someone who Justin on Johnny Rizzo's stream, Justin just described as one of the players who gives NRG the most headaches, which makes a lot of sense. He's an exceptional talent, as is showed by him being a world champion. Has the ability to just be wherever you need him to be. One of the most consistent players in the game. Somebody who I think doesn't get enough credit. Skill steal. All right. If I remember correctly, the oldest player who we had at Worlds at the ripe old age of 25, if I remember correctly. I mean, what an old man, right? He's only multiple years younger than I am. What an old fart that guy is. Skill steal coming off the board. We're already starting to get a nice little smattering here. Of course, Team 2 is looking a little bit better than some of our other teams, but not a lot of talents out there like Vatira. So let's keep this rocking and rolling. Maybe we can rapid fire through some of these. I know we got a lot of names to get off the board here. Just did a video on Team Falcons and discussing rather whether or not their first season as an RLCS team was successful. I would recommend you go watch it. I put a lot of time and effort into it, but if you don't want to watch it and you just want the TLDR, yeah, it was a really successful season. Team Falcons is really good this year. So really round one, who knows? The exciting thing about round one is just starting to see some of the people that we're going to be playing around. But round two is when it gets really interesting to start and get some pairings of people. Is it Commutator? All right, so our only grand champ off the board. Well, I don't know. Maybe a super team is going to be kind of built around him. Commutator was, I thought, one of the coolest things to come out of the wild card. What an awesome story. All right, Sad coming off the board from Team Secret. I can't remember. Is he sticking around? I saw some roster news. What feels like a blur now. I think he's off that team. I can't remember. All right. LCT. Can you guys hear the clapping that happens every time we do one of these? Here, let's see if I can. Is there a way I can turn that off? I mean, it's certainly fun. Don't get me wrong, guys. But if there was a way I could turn that nonsense off, that would be super. Definitely don't want any ads. You ain't paying me anything. All right, we'll keep it. I don't want to funk around with it too much. If you don't like the clapping, just mute it. My voice is annoying anyways, guys, so just get rid of that. Okay, let's see who we got next. Wait, who was last? See, this is why I can't get distracted, because I'll totally forget what I'm doing. We had LCT last. LCT is on a team. Move my face back over. We're rocking and rolling. Knight also off the board. Someone who probably doesn't get as much exposure as he should, just because, excuse my spelling, because that region is just dominated by Furia. Similar affliction that a lot of our MENA teams have, right? You know, you just don't get a lot of headway. But I think Team Secret probably had a better season than most people thought between the spring split and Worlds. Pretty good showings. And who I think is one of our strongest in the field. Don't care what you say. I get all the memes, him wanting to switch things up. I mean, what is First Killer doing, right? A guy who just wants to have the best possible talent around him in order to win at the highest level. Ridiculous, right? But, you know, we'll talk more about them as these teams fill out and as we get to our other players. I understand all the pushback, but I am a huge fan of First Killer and what he could do, even with some of the things that can hold him back sometimes. Tenhao off the board. Sorry, Tenhao. Sorry to not talk about you a lot. I don't mean to be offensive. I just don't want to talk about everybody in the same way that I talked about First Killer, because this would be the longest video I've ever done. Had the meeting controls again. Let's get this guy spinning. Still some massive names on the board, of course, but we have Twiz coming off the board. So a lot of our emerging regions are having some dudes taken off the board. Twiz, as you might remember, I don't know why I started it like that, because I'm not even sure. I was at the event and I can't even remember all the teams. What kind of a fan am I, guys? Am I even a real analyst if I don't remember the teams that every single person is on? I was going to say Veloce, but if you say it and then you're wrong, you look like an idiot. And so as opposed to doing that, I decided, let me just say I don't know and be an idiot either way, right? That's the better option. Twiz is on. Is it with a period? No. Just Twiz. No periods. Run-on sentence. Let's keep it rolling. Metanaris. Just lying. It's Archie. Old school Archie video 2. Time moves so fast that maybe some of the videos I was doing some months back aren't totally paralleled to how things stand presently, but it's about Archie and his skill and all of that. I still think a lot of it applies. Maybe go watch it if you're looking for a little more context on Archie as a player. And before we go any farther, how many teams do we have here? It was 8. It's 24, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Why don't I count by the rows? Don't tell me how to do math. 17, 18, 19, 20, 24. Okay, cool. So we're going to 24. We took up 2 lines, so we're actually going to go to 26. This will be where we're headed. Let me go ahead and mark that because I'm dumb and I'll forget. It's our last spot. So spin this again. Archie's gone. The knapsack. The Canadian himself. What happens if he wins a world title? I guess we'll never know. I don't mean to make fun of J Naps. I think he's one of the best consistent players in the world, and he's done so for quite an extended period of time, which is incredibly impressive. I just thought that interview that he gave when they won the major earlier this season was iconic, where he was like, what happens if I never win a major? I guess we'll never know. And the crowd's like, oh, it was pretty kick ass, if I do say so myself. Jory is off the board. One of my favorite players in the league. I understand the shortcomings. I understand the Dignitas results. Excited to have been able to watch that team over the course of the season. Even more excited that they are changing it up. Cool to see what him and Archie are going to do together. Is it Yan? Yan, aka Superman. Are we all wrong? Because we all pronounce it Yan, and we went back and forth on Yanks earlier in the season. But his name is escaping me right now. The Brazilian commentator. Is it? I think it ends in like Acho. Why am I so bad at names? Drives me crazy. Chamaco. Oh my gosh. Chamaco still pronounces it Yanks. So are we all wrong? I mean, if anyone knows, it's Chamaco, right? So maybe it's Yanks, but I'm going to go with Yan. One of the best players in the world. Don't need to spend a lot of time on that. I don't think anybody's going to disagree. And the great one, Kaio, off the board, put South America on the map back in the day. A true legend in his own right. And I thought had a very impressive Worlds in a way that was undercovered. My big fears, Daniel, who the heck is that? My big fears coming into Worlds was that for Furia was that Card and Kaio just were going to be too shaky to elevate the team to where they needed to be. I thought offensively Card was incredibly steady, and I thought Kaio overall was a huge net positive for that team. We got a lot of super teams potentially starting to form already here. Mr. Heel of the RLCS, Mr. Cowboy Hat and Sunglasses, Mr. Communism himself, the best troll that we have in the RLCS, in a way that I think is loved by most people. I think it's endearing what he does as a troll. And we go from full pressure offense to laid back and controlled defense in Khaled. Why can't I spell? I think this is phonetically how he does it. I'm not going to check for everybody. I'm going to trust myself. Apparently, AJ going to be teaming up with Reddles. Exciting to see who the third is going to be. It's an interesting roster. I'm excited for AJ to get out of the phase ecosphere, atmosphere, stratosphere. whatever it is. I'm excited for him to take on a new opportunity, especially alongside Reynolds. The kind of personality cohesion that we're going to have there, I think they're going to be a really exciting team with a lot of fans, irregardless of who they pick up as their third. But AJ, one of the most impressive offensive solo talents that we have. I think an under appreciated defender, especially once they upgraded to Sipical. AJ used to get put in a lot of positions where he was the last man back on fast breaks when they had Aleutian on the team, and he really does a lot for them defensively. Speaking of solo players, KV1, one of the most impressive one-on-one players that we have. I think he was in the Friday Night Duels and he won. I can't remember who he faced off against, but KV1 seemed to be one of the only players who was visibly, or not visibly, but clearly affected by nerves at the world stage. I mean, duh, that's a lot of people. I was nervous sitting in the crowds with absolutely like nothing, no horse in the race at all. But he seemed to really settle in and was one of the big reasons why the club did so well. I thought his defense was pretty top tier. Let me just do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I can do math. Awesome. KV1 off the board. What does the future hold for Scrubkilla? The odd man out on Dignitas, isn't he? Abjack apparently has a new roster. Jorius has a new team. Where is Scrub gonna go? The first true prodigy that we had enter the scene. Long career. I hope it keeps going. Still think he's a great talent. Look who it is. Possibly my favorite player, just because I think he's incredibly misunderstood. I love his personality, his persona. I think that a lot of people misappropriate his negative energy in a way that I think is just a part of him and is productive. And I didn't mention, phenomenal player, maybe the best ever, but we'll circle back to that. Let's go back to this circle for now. Who is Justin getting paired with? Cassio. Man, I guess if you can't beat him, join him. Cassio gets eliminated as the only man on the stage for Semper against NRG, and now he's joining forces with Justin. I don't hate that. Certainly not the highest level that you can have between two players, but that's a good roster so far. Who is Math joining? Scrubkilla. Okay. All right. You know what I mean? I like both of them, but are they going to win the title? I don't know. We'll see who their third is, but yeah, let's keep going. Sigums. All right. Respect. Curious where this team's going to find their offense. But, we'll see. The world is their oyster. It's a weird, there's a weird duo. Oh, another thing that's probably worth mentioning as a massive name comes off the board. Is this where Com was? We'll have to check in a second, but let me give the caveat real quick. Language barriers don't matter. Locations don't matter. Everyone speaks the language of Rocket League. There's no communicative issues. So if we have a player who only speaks Spanish and a player who only speaks English, that does not matter for the context of this test. Is this Com's team? Oh my gosh, AJ in beast mode. Jesus. Oh my gosh, that team's got a lot of offense. Basically just a different iteration of First Killer and AJ. But I like this one a little bit better. I think Beast Mode can play off the ball a little better than First Killer can. First Killer, one of the most potent offensive talents in the world. First Killer needs the ball, which is not a negative. I have basically no negatives to say about any of these players. We all have things that we can work on as humans and as Rocket League players. So this is about compatibility of rosters, right? There's a ton of players that move around first killer that would be perfect additions, but AJ and Beast Mode, I'm not super upset with that pairing. Who's Khaled going to get paired with? Got a steady defender. Ooh, exotic. Man, that is a good defensive team right there. Possibly counterattack heavy. I think that is how he does it. Possibly very counterattack heavy. I'm going to be really interested. That third spot is going to be very make or break in a way that these other teams, it's not as important so far. Whoever they pair, that could be a nasty team. We're going to have to see who's Calm going to be paired with. Who is that? Fever? That's a sneaky offensive team right there. Yeah, let's see who they get the third. Now we get into some super team potential. Daniel and no way. All right, so guys, thank you so much for coming and watching. And we did the full experiment, right? I guess we can kind of stop there. Daniel Monkey Moon, jokes aside, that's a gross team. What about Kaio? Who's the great one getting paired with? Nostromic. Cool. So, got some connectivity. Again, we said that doesn't really matter for the sake of this, but that's cool just as a talking point. Astromic, he there's another capitalization in here somewhere. Let me just do it. Why not? It's the K. He's doing the astral thing. Kaio and Astromic, the team's not bad. That team's not bad at all. That team is pretty Swiss Army knife. They can do a lot of stuff. They don't have any world-beating skill that they're top tier at, but they do a lot of stuff really well. Who is Abstract going with? That team could be pretty good. That team could be pretty good. Abjack, very competent offensive third talent in the box. Great shooting accuracy, great shooting speed, very, very smart player. That is an exceptional player to put around Yan. He'll unlock him in the same way that I think Abjack has unlocked Jorius. Interested to see what Jorius is going to look like next season, just because I think Abjack did a lot for him. But we'll see. Speaking of Jorius, who's he getting paired with? Hey, that's a solid talent. I know a lot of people, oh, Senzo, you don't really hear about him. He's not talked about. He's not a top 25 player, but he is certainly an incredibly solid player who's been around for a very long time. And I think a lot of people forget kind of lifted Sandrock Gaming to the performance they had in the Sweden Major, which is also known as the Fall Major, when O'Khaled couldn't make it because of school. So Sinzo is a very good plug and play talent. We'll see what the third looks like. Who's the knapsack getting paired with? Maybe another Canadian, eh? To die for. If you didn't know a lot about Rocket League, about the RLCS, to die cash, and you just went to Octane to find out who the best player in the world is, you would probably walk away thinking it was to die for. That man has dominated his region statistically in a way that I don't know if anyone ever has before. He is all over the stat sheet. Good offensive talent too. Who's this pairing? That's fun. Couple notable hairstyles, I suppose, is my first takeaway. But that is a pressure-heavy offensive team. They're going to turn it into a track meet, right? That's going to be a you can't score more than we can kind of team. Not to take away from them defensively, but offense is what sticks out to me immediately. Polarizing, huh? probably one of the more up and down talents that we've seen recently. I think it really hurts his stock when you cross compare who he was traded with, right? To trade for who a lot of people think is one of the most talented players in the world. I don't fall under that necessarily. I think Atomic is good, but all of the talk about Atomic being the best player in the world has always confounded me. I don't see it. Doesn't mean I'm right. This is just my opinion, guys. This is all about perspective, right? It's not about what do you like least so that we can argue about it, right? What do you agree with? Or at least if we disagree, can we see each other's perspective? I can understand why people look at Atomic and think that he's one of the better players in the world, but let me actually table that because he's not the one who got picked. It was Drees who got picked after getting traded from G2, comes over to Optic, kind of a funky trade, looks a little stagnant at the beginning. Turbo Pulsa becomes the coach. They sub in Alu. I think that roster looks a lot better. And I think Drees is still a very young talent who has shown a lot of value as a young player. And I think is not done developing as a talent. I'm a fan of Drees. Who's Drees with? Twiz? Maybe not the optimal pairing if you're trying to win it all, but certainly one of those teams, just like Optic has been, that you don't want to just write them off. That's a competitive roster so far. Who's Tenhao getting paired with? Tenhao and Nolly? Okay. Nolly going to be going to a new team. He's doing with Appjack, right? That's the news that we just heard. Appjack and Nolly. That'll be an interesting team. I've always been confused about where I stand on Nolly. I walked away from the spring major feeling like he really underperformed and put them in a rough spot. And then I walked away from Worlds thinking he was one of the most consistent players that we had there. So eye test always leaves me a little shaky, but it also shows a lot of greatness in Nolly. Stepping up to the big leagues, huh, Banana Head? A lot of people talk about you as the best player from your region. What about pairing you with the best player from another region? Maybe, allegedly, best player from another region. Who alleged that First Killer's the best player from his region? Maybe me. I don't know. Let's keep it rolling. The villain himself. Unbelievable. No, I mean, you guys probably have seen all of the further context that we've gathered since what happened. I don't think Arsenal is as bad of a guy as a lot of people thought that he might be. I really was always kind of confused. I mean, the only reason people were upset was because of a false rumor, which was that Rettles found out during Worlds, like while they were still competing, which isn't what happened. So if you remove that piece of it, it's just a roster move like all the other roster moves that we've seen. So people who were bent out of shape about Arsenal, I think it was just people who already, were so-so or anti-Arsenal, and that just kind of gave them some fodder to get more upset about it. But I, was in defense of Arsenal. I thought that it was too harsh, especially to just pin it on a player when there's a bunch of more mature, not that he's immature, but he's young. I thought there was a lot of other people within the organization and surrounding the team that should have caught flack before Arsenal did. But who is Arsenal getting paired with, you might ask? Knight. Okay. LCT and SAD. Who are we getting here with LCT? Relating Wave. Okay. Overlooked, underrated, Relating Wave. He got a little bit of buzz in what was that after winter when people were like, watch out for Relating Wave, or maybe it was fall into winter, watch out for Relating Wave. He's a good player. He put a lot of hours in pre-Worlds too. I remember looking at the pros hours, and Relating Wave was one of the highest. So certainly somebody who cares a heck of a lot. I think that's an important thing when you're building a team. We only see the surface stuff, right? We don't see all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but I would assume that Relating Wave is certainly a beneficial player to have in the team endpoint ecosphere. It's the second time I've used ecosphere. Not a word that's typically in my vocabulary, but maybe that's why I'm saying it more. And who is this? I can't remember who we're pairing Metza with. Sad? Showed that you can extend your career past what most people think. It was what season? I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna flub it. It's gonna be wrong. You can let me know in the comments. How's that for a plug? Metza got the Metza chance. I think that was Copperbox, right? One of the earlier seasons. I don't know. Season 5? I'm wrong. That's fine. But to extend your career this far, to improve your mechanics in a way that keeps you relevant. Shout out to Metzanaris, big fan. Made a video about him too. Just hitting all the plugs, huh? Mawson. A little spicy Johnny Boy nugget. Mawson and Commutator. Okay. We'll keep it rolling. Ahmad. Super team potential? Oh, man. Maybe not. Obviously the worst player in the RLCS, so bad he was just forced to retire immediately after his results just because of how terrible he was. But no, CJ, actually, for players that were retiring, probably one of the better players, right? CJ is still competitive, still dominated his region, even though it's not the strongest region, but that's neither here nor there. Multiple players who could be worse to be paired with than CJ. Brings a lot of energy to that team. That's a team that's going to be amped up. We spin again. Is Dar still on here? Yes. The rule has been applied. Ooh, Chi-Town. Chicago. Name Chicago from Los Angeles. Wears a New York hat. Likes locations. What about the world champ? Who's extra getting? Hey. We want to talk about old players staying relevant. Man, Torment might have been... Do I say it? Might have been the best defender at Worlds. Torment is nuts. He's a brick wall. I don't know how he does it. That man's incredible. Some very good pieces that can plug and play to a lot of star talent. So, I mean, this team could be really explosive and complete if they get... we'll see who their third player is. Who's this? Atira? Man, he's going to absolutely crush the RLCS next season. Hey. Kami, who I think probably isn't first place anymore, but for a while was the most total assists of any player in RLCS history. Isn't that weird? I think now it's probably Garrett, who just beat him by accrual of games. But for a while there, Kami was like 400 games or 300 games less than Garrett G and first place in total assists. Who'd have thought, right? Not me. So I guess we got somebody to get Vatira the ball. What about SMW? If you watch college basketball, you know that there's always a couple of players in the March Madness tournament whose stock gets absolutely shot up before the NBA draft just because of their performance in the tournament. I don't know if anybody had their stock improve more than Lost from Worlds. One of the only players that I feel like you can watch and has his own unique style. Really hard to speed him up or slow him down. Lost plays at Lost's speed and does it exceptionally well. Yeah, that dude is good, and his chain is top tier as well. Thing looks like it weighs 60 pounds. Rounding out the roster with Happy Meal. So this is kind of where we start to see, right? Probably gonna get bounced in wild card. You know, hate to see it, but I just don't know if they have enough talent cohesively to put anything together. But let's see how the rest of the rosters fill out. This is a team that could definitely make it through wild card, and will definitely make it out of wild card with adding Mist. Okay, so this team we can actually kind of game theory for a little bit, right? Vatira is certainly going to be taking. Man, this team can do a lot. A lot of players that are good midfielders, great defenders as well. This team is going to be tough to score against. But can they match together in a way that makes sense offensively? That's the question. I don't want to spend a bunch of time just thinking out loud right now because that'll extend this video. But once we get all of the teams, we'll take a brief pause and then we'll go back over it. Aleutian off the board. Concerned about their scoring. Not going to give up a lot of goals. Maybe this is a team that is striving for low-scoring games, striving for overtimes, just to steal some games from people, run out the clock, and then just roll the dice. But to make it all the way, concerned about who is scoring. Probably extra, but speaking of scoring, that's a team that can score with Chicago and Rise. Chicago, a player who is exceptional at distributing the ball. Especially when they had Dries, I think that the biggest benefit that team had was the Chicago to Dries and Dries to Chicago combination, with JNAPS, of course, being a huge part of what they do around that. But that connection was huge, and Chicago still great at distributing the ball, especially in countering where you have a team who is coming to try and score on you. Chicago is exceptional at collecting and possessing that ball and then rapidly getting that ball to teammates. Something that G2 does specifically, for what it's worth, is they transition by having whoever is possessing and catching the ball on their own backboard look for outlets on the high sidewalls just outside their own defensive corners, and then either Atomic or JNAPS can work from there, being able to utilize the ceiling, the sidewalls, pass the ball to the middle, take it solo. G2 finds a lot of success with that. And Rise is somebody who is exceptional, especially in the box. So finishing in the box. So this is a team that's going to be shooting a lot. Sorry, Skill Steal. It's not you. It's me. I just don't know if that team is a world contender. I mean, especially when you compare it to like a Daniel Monkey Moon pairing or some of these other ones that we have. But we'll see. We'll see how the rest of them shake out. Ahmad, CJ. That's a playoff team. God, that team can score. Seiko and Ahmad are arguably the best offensive, just if we're looking for the sake of offense. Probably the most talented individual players in their regions in that respect. Ahmad, I think, has Mina on lock. I think TRK is probably the better player of the two, but Ahmad offensively is just out of this world. And Seiko, a lot of arguments in Europe, a lot of great players in Europe, but Seiko is that dude. He can score from anywhere, and he does it consistently. And he is kind of a flashy player too. And CJ also aggressive, offensive. We're probably going to see a lot of Seiko playing kind of far back, So I'm curious kind of how that works out. But who's this next team? Commutator and Mawson. I don't know if God himself could make this team a championship contender, but Turk is pretty close, aka TRK 511. Yeah, probably the best player from his region. Consistently one of the best players in the world. Yeah, it's about as good of a player as you could get if you're a Commutator and Mawson, but I got some questions. Who's this? Sad Metza. Similar situation. I just don't know if we have enough talent, and I don't know if I don't think Darth is moving the needle for me. Sorry, guys. I think you might be out a little earlier than you would like to be in our fake tournament. Sip. One of the most polarizing players in the league. You love him or you hate him. I love him. I think Sipical was probably the best player that FaZe had over the course of Worlds. I'll field arguments. I will field arguments for AJ and First Killer. I think they did incredible. Top 4 finish. Everybody has to be playing pretty well, right? I thought Sipical was pretty remarkable. But with Relating Wave and LCT, I don't know. Bubble team. Bubble group stages. APAC catches a lot of flack. I think if you take Realize and put him into another region, he's a good player. I think Realize can do a lot. I think he is. I think he, as a top player, is the most removed from the second best player in his region from anybody else from any other region. Realize over whoever second place is. I think that gap is wider than any other top player in their own regions. Arsenal and Knight. Good team. Good team. That might be it, though. First Killer and Banana Head. This could be a team, though. Still got some names on the board. First Killer, Banana Head, and Card. A lot of questions defensively about this team. Card, for all the good that he contributed to Furia, really made me nervous in a lot of spots in Worlds defensively. Just kind of sloppy with the ball at points, in ways that always didn't show up on the scoreboard, but in ways that put Furia in a much more dangerous position than they needed to be based on the circumstances. With Banana Head and First Killer, First Killer is this kind of weird vacuum of a player where it's very tough to First Killer is going to do what First Killer is going to do regardless of the teammates that you put around him. He almost plays 1-on-3 with 2 other teammates around him, which he's like James Harden, right? He improves your floor in a dramatic way very rapidly. You can't do worse than a certain level with First Killer even on your roster. I do question if his teammates have the full capacity to show their skills around him. But that's a much larger discussion that we can carry on another time. I also would like to throw in the little caveat of I think some of the negativity around First Killer and his ability to play with teammates can be overblown at points. I still feel I'm somewhere on the spectrum of First Killer could do better to help his teammates help him, but I don't think I'm as viciously anti-First Killer's ability to play with teammates as some critics can be. But what about Tenhao and Nolly? How are we rounding out this team? That's a good player to round it out with. The darling of RLCS. Everybody loves Joyo and his multicolored hair, his story, his mom. That whole it's a great package if you are trying to market your esport and put it around a player. Joyo is a great story for the RLCS, but an additional part of that is that he's a tremendous talent. I think it's arguable that he's the best player on Moist. I'm probably going to lean Vatira, but I've said Joyo is better than Vatira in the past, so that shows you how close to being on the fence I am. But yeah, Joyo is an exceptional player all around. What about Twiz and Drees? Mm. I feel like I'll be more informed about Itachi next season. Um, I don't really know what to make of him. I feel like there's been a lot of spots where I, with the eye test, looked at Itachi on the field and just thought that he wasn't always as productive as a player as you would hope. I know that he's somebody who is always very low boost. I'm pretty sure Octane will back that up as well. If you go look it up, he's somebody who is on zero boost pretty often. At least he was in previous splits when I had been researching him. But I think he showed himself to be developing into a more defined player in Worlds. He is a steadying force that kind of is the putty that allowed Nolly and Astral to do a lot of the stuff that they do. But with Twiz and Drees, I just don't know if there's enough there. Again, they've kind of filled out the optic roster that Drees is on. This is not a team that you want to overlook. That's a team you got to take serious, but they're not going to be lifting the trophy. But maybe Archie and Ruddles could, depending on who their third is. Sazonix? Mm. I'm not putting money on them to win the world title. But that team could get out of groups. That team could make the playoffs. Yeah, that team could make the playoffs for sure. I just feel like I'm not informed enough about Zazonix to have a strong opinion on him one way or the other. Saw him in previous splits, saw him at Gamers 8. He's really good. I don't know how he meshes with this team. I think this team is going to force Archie to play a lot more defensively than he would like. Reddles makes me nervous sometimes on defense, especially when he's stagnant as a goal line defender. Reads that, again, I have no mechanics at all. So none of this is meant to be like Reddles is trash at the game. Reddles is phenomenal at the game. He's one of the better players ever at the game. But some of those weird bounces and reads off your own backboard when you are the goal line defender seem to give Reddles issues from time to time. So I think if you want a very steady goal line defender, it's going to have to be Archie on this lineup. And I think that takes away from what this team could be, which is a very offensive team. I mean, maybe this is a team that kind of just goes old G2 style, where it is just, we don't care at all about defense. Literally, we're going to apply so much pressure to you that you can't break out. That's kind of the use case for this team. Let's see how the rest of them fill out. Who's this team going to be? Ooh, Chaussette. Mr. Fennec himself, Chaussette 45. Did I4 and JNabs? If you have to have an APAC player on your team, and you want to be truly competitive, to die for is one of the ones that you want. Yeah, I don't hate that team. I really don't hate that team. Is that Maxium? Super Locky. Super Locky. I just watched the Pioneers. They put out a comms video from Worlds. Hilarious, by the way. All right, let's go ahead and finish up Why Don't We? Daisy, RLCS Spotlight, aka Joe's favorite player. Follows him on Twitter. Who's Daisy joining? Oops. That is an interesting use case. Is Daisy's skill floor out of here on my desk? Is his skill floor too low to allow Yan and Abjack to win it all? Probably. But even without Daisy, if we just plug in general standard player, Abjack and Yan is a great combination, but we have some other really good ones as well. So seems pretty good. I could see him making the playoffs just based on Yan and Abjack alone, but probably not lifting the trophy. What about Kaio and Astramic? Kaio and Squishy, a couple of old guard players, if you will, with Astramic. It's funny, I actually feel like Astramic plays a lot like Squishy with his kind of defensive versatility, the way he defends and works his way out of defense, kind of the spots he puts himself in, the mechanics that he likes to utilize to get out of those positions, whether it's catching the ball and then kind of possessing around your corners, or catching the ball and then trying to take it down the middle of the field, typically with, getting the ball off the wall, reset, and then pass it, or just try and push it down the field. Very good at backpedaling, making contact with, and catching the ball on your own back wall. And Kaio is a great all-around player too. I think you're probably going to want one of Squishy or Astramic to play more forward and take on more of an offensive role. Squishy's done it before. We saw him win a world title with Cloud9, but we're pretty far removed from those days. So very competitive team. I don't know. We'll collect more of our thoughts in a second. Who's filling out the super team though? Daniel Monkey Moon. That's good though. That is good for us to have this be overall a competitive thought process, right? Putting Snowy onto that roster makes that team certainly one of the better teams that we have, but interesting nonetheless. Common Fever. Oh, that's Garrett, isn't it? Yeah. I heard the ding right at the end. Oops. 2. That feels right. Is that right? Is it 1 R? Why am I wasting time on this? It's 2 R's. Good team. I like that team. Khaled, Exotic. And now I know I was maybe a little hard on him a second ago, saying that he's not the best player in NA. Sorry, guys. Sorry for just laying into Atomic and saying he isn't the best player in the world. That's on my mic's falling. Sorry for saying Atomic isn't the best player in the world. That's on me for being just a big jerk, just a big meanie to Atomic. But that's not to say he's a bad player. He's not bad. He's not even average. He's not even good. Atomic is a great player. So with Khaled and Exotic, that's a pretty filled out roster. I get what that team is trying to do. None of those players are bad. They're all exceptional talents. So I think that is a sneaky roster that we might come back to. AJ in Beast Mode, imagine if it's Astral. It's not going to be, but imagine though, but think about it. Max U. It's going to be interesting to think through a lot of these APAC teams just to see what they look like, just to think about how that will mesh. Scrub. Not to be confused with the man who kills him, Scrub Killa. who's actually right here on this team. Who are we completing that roster with? I really hope this is going to be Astral. Justin Cassio Astral. I really like that team. If he goes here, that seems like kind of a throwaway. See, if I wouldn't have said anything, though, if I wouldn't have said anything, he would have gone there. But, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Bet you didn't see that coming. Mr. Ams himself. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna park this video for a second. I'm gonna marinate. I'm gonna digest these teams. We're gonna come back and we're gonna work through this as a team, guys. We can do this. I believe in us. All right, I'll catch you guys in a second.
Hey guys, remember when I said I would be right back after digesting and marinating all of those teams that we made? It's going to be a little more than a second. I am actually going to pause this here and then post part 2 in the upcoming days. This is already basically an hour long. So yeah, I'm going to cut it here. But guys, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you for the conclusion of this fun experiment shortly. And if you like this, please let me know down below, and I hope to see you in part 2. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.